This week's art challenge is to design your own composition using the elements of art and the principles of design as your guide. A composition is how you arrange your artwork. What do you put where? What do you place on the left? What do you place on the right? And are you going to arrange everything you place on your artwork so that it looks good? And a good way to make sure your composition looks good is to understand what the elements are that you're working with, which are line, shape, space, form, color, value, and texture. These are the physical things you're putting in your artwork, on your paper or on your canvas or whatever surface you're working on. These are the things you have to physically put down on your artwork in order to have something that is a visual piece of art. Now, if you just have lines and shapes and space and form and color and value and texture, you may just have sort of a jumble that doesn't look visually good. So that's where the principles come in. The principles: balance, movement, pattern, contrast, rhythm, emphasis, and unity. These are guidelines that we can use to arrange your elements of art. I can use balance to arrange my lines, or I can use pattern to arrange my shapes. These principles of design are just common guidelines that look good. If you use a pattern, it's going to be visually appealing. If you create high contrast in an artwork, which is having opposites, it's going to look visually appealing. So if you can use the principles of design as a way to organize your elements of art, you'll have a good composition or a good arrangement for your artwork. So this week's challenge is going to be to find one pair of an element and a principle and make them work together and create a drawing with that as a basis. So for instance, you might decide you really want something colorful. So maybe your element of art that you choose is going to be color. And perhaps you really like to have a pattern. So maybe you will go to pattern, go down here, and take a look at the example. There's an example of using the principle of design pattern to arrange the element of art color. You see repeated colors, and they are creating an overall pattern of triangles. Yes, there are lines. Yes, there are shapes. The elements of art always kind of work together. But right here, you definitely see an example of color being used to create a pattern. So that's an example of an element and a principle working together. So you will need to make your own pattern with color if that's the combination you choose. But you will need to make it evident in your artwork that you are choosing pattern as your principle and color as your element. So you can choose any two combinations or any combination of an element plus a principle. So perhaps you like texture and you want to use some of your media to make some interesting textures. You could create balance with texture. You see that example right here by arranging different textures on either side so it's kind of balanced out. Or you could create movement with a texture by having a texture flow through an artwork. You can see right here that that's happening. So if you want to pick one element and then decide which principle you're going to use to design a good design with your element, that's what you're going to do. Maybe it's shape and contrast. Maybe it's form and movement. Any combination you choose is fine, and then you will create a design or an artwork that fills the page that clearly indicates your principle of design and the element of art that you're choosing and uses a media of your choice. So take a look at this chart as inspiration, as a starting point, and then come up with your own design where you have selected a specific principle of design and a specific element of art, and you're teaming them up to create a great composition. All right, good luck.